what's shaking, I see.
I feel like it sounded a little bit like a frog, like ribbit, rabbit, rubber.
You know what? There's been times in my past, like in school, when a teacher or professor would call my name and it literally sounded like they were talking like a frog. So I don't think it's you. I think it's the
Oh,
nature of my
it's
name.
the name. Okay, got it. And then there's Bruski. Oh,
Yes,
Bruski. Oh, yeah.
which
Okay,
comes with
that's
its
what most
own
people know me.
connotations. Everyone always goes, "You must have had a great time in college." I was like, "Oh man, do we have to get into those stories?"
Yeah, we probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Listen,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
I've been listening to these Clubhouse series, and you were on there with Karly from Tutor Doctor, and I loved that one because it was all about getting into the field or like unlocking the hidden profitability in your franchise system. Specifically, it kind of gravitated towards getting in the field, which I think is incredible because I think this is one of the biggest gaps in franchising. Everyone's always talking about getting more franchisees or making sure you have the right software stack or your support, your training and all that sort of stuff. But the biggest gap is actually getting franchisees to do stuff, right? I mean, that's the long pain that every franchisor says. I train them, I give them manuals, I set them up with coaching and all this sort of stuff. And sometimes they just don't execute. I could give them advice and they'll still go the other way. And the missing example here, or the missing factor that keeps them going down the right path, is the field work that goes into franchising. So this was an awesome Clubhouse. I was so excited to listen to it. I was listening to it while driving. So I tip my hat
Yeah.
to you, first of all.
Thank you.
And
Well, I tip my hat to Karly because she was awesome to have on there. I said this on Clubhouse, but the range of ways that franchisors support franchisees and understand the importance of the field, there's just a really big range. And Tutor Doctor is a company that I had the opportunity to really observe how not only Tutor Doctor, but many businesses through the past few years on our roundtables, what they do to improve and like franchisee profitability. And what became apparent to me as I got to know, and I've known the Tutor Doctor brand for quite a while. It was one of the earliest brands I did any work with, but to see how much emphasis they put on developing the people in the field was what led to us at AC Inc. going, oh my gosh, we need to help people with this. I mean, between seeing that and then reflecting on my experience in the field and not getting proper coaching and training, and then my experience as a franchisee, having people quote unquote in the field, try to tell me how to or help me grow my business, but instead not know what to do and just resort to compliance. Anyway, so I rambled a bit there, but it was, for me, it was a treat getting to hang out with Karly as well, because she, has had her experience with Tutor Doctor as a young person in the field, and now the business performance. Oh shoot, I'm saying this wrong. Performance excellence, business excellence manager. Oh my gosh, I'm gapping. I'm sorry, Karly. I have to look it back up again. But in her role, she runs the field coach team, basically the franchise business coach team.
right. Okay. So listening to this Clubhouse, one question came to mind, and I didn't ask it because I was saving it for this juicy rant that we're about to have.
Okay.
So there's a lot of emphasis put on field, right? Helping franchisees, all that sort of stuff. And usually the term field means physically doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of things that a franchisor gives a franchisee that doesn't really necessarily involve physical help, right? Like maybe setting them up with a marketing agency, so the marketing agency can help them bring in customers, right? Or maybe setting them up with like resources like a good printer, all that sort of stuff, getting them assets, graphics. Like it's still a lot of it is active, proactive, even helping them with their mindset and their struggles and things that they may be afraid of, right? But how does the field work come in a scenario like this where you've shown franchisees something that you are working on that is physical, getting out into the community, grassroots, right? And they go one of two ways. Either they don't do it for whatever reason, like they don't have the time or they're afraid to do it or whatever, or more specifically, they do it, they attempt to do it, but for some reason it isn't working. maybe they didn't set up the right plan, or they didn't execute the plan, or maybe they're just, or maybe they've done everything and like their heart and soul and is into it, but it isn't working. What does a field coach or a person in the field do in scenarios like this?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think it's kind of cool because you're also identifying like the fact that when we say field coach, we don't necessarily mean they're always literally out there in the field with the franchisee. It's often over Zoom or whatever, but the idea is that they're the liaison. So, so if I understand your question, I think what we're getting at here is like the field coach going out and working directly with the franchisee to help them get it right.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, is that the answer? My
Okay,
question
yeah.
is if it's not working or they're not doing
Yeah.
it, then what do you do?
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, and Karly talked a little bit about this, but I love this point that, um, I think like a lot of franchisors will get a lot of value from going, you know what, they're struggling out in their market and we need to go out there and work with them to actually do this with them. So if that's, whether it's maybe a mobile event of some sort, or, going out and meeting other business owners that they can do cross promotions with, or whatever the thing is that's, quote unquote, out in the community that the franchisee is struggling with, let's go out there and let's work with them on it. We're not just going to do it for them. We're going to work on actually transferring the skills, and we're going to have them, we start by maybe showing, and then they take on some of that work themselves. And in the end, before we leave, they're doing it without us. We're just there just in case. So physically doing it with them, we hear this all the time. And that's one of the things Karly was talking about, is that with Tutor Doctor, when they couldn't physically go out into the field, they saw a big difference with the franchisee performance. So I think it's really important. And I think sometimes the franchisors it's hard to equate the ROI of spending the money to send somebody, the travel costs and the time spent, but you just continuously hear that there's great results from it. So I think it's something that gets missed.
Yeah, okay. So I could see that kind of working in a scenario where the franchisee isn't doing it. Maybe they're apprehensive or shy and you get them out of their box. But in the scenario where the franchisee is doing it, and they're following your rules or your guidelines or your plan, right? Go out and talk to 5 businesses or whatever, and it's not converting into revenue. Then what good is it to go out and help them if they're doing?
Oh my gosh! Well, then so important to go out and see what they're actually doing. We assume that they're doing what we are trying to have taught them to do. But you get there and you realize, oh, well, the businesses you're talking to are physically too far away, or, it doesn't make sense, or, let's go have the conversation and you'll do the talking and I'll just observe. And you hear, oh my gosh, the conversation they're having is all wrong. They're like going at it the wrong way. They're not building trust first or whatever they should be doing, so you can't catch it until you're literally with them. And when you're there and you can catch it, you go, oh, okay, so here's what's the missing link here. We need to adjust the wording of this, or let's try this different way, working with them directly to adjust and try to figure out what might work.
My assumption is that while you're there and you see things that may not be working, you can now note these down to preemptively help new franchisees from doing this exact same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. And I think it's really important franchisors always have a laugh about the comment we hear from franchisees that say, well, my market's different. Well, as much as for the most part, it probably isn't, it might be a little different. Yeah. So like you might need to use a slightly different approach or a totally different approach. I mean, there's got to be some other approach that will work. But I saw this back in the days with M&M when I had my stores. One of my stores, average sale per customer was like $5 more on average than the other store, and it looked like the same demographic. And we were like, what's going on here? Like I could go sell at either store and get the match the result of that store for some reason. I'm like,
yeah. And you never know, like they could be going into a business looking like a creepy old guy or a thug.
Yeah, or wearing
children, we have candy.
Yeah, or wearing the wrong thing with, just something offensive. You never know. So yeah, get out there in the field with your franchisees and help them.
Let's wrap it up.
Okay. 3,
2, 1. Go be awesome.
awesome.